Welcome to the Pit Stop Ranch, where car washes only happen when nature provides them, or we're trying to sell them, whichever comes first. We have heard that a lot of people are going to be on the roads traveling to see family over the holidays. And we figured that since a lot of these trips are going to be non-trivial for a lot of people, we thought we would go ahead and run through the steps of what I think you should do to prepare your vehicle before going for those long runs. And at the same time, take the opportunity to introduce Rubi, my 2006 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Rubicon. More or less an excuse for me to do some basic maintenance, film it, and call it a video. Anyways, hope you learned something and enjoy. Here's a nice profile shot of Ruby. As you can see, she is longer than the standard TJ, and that would be because she's an Unlimited. Now, the difference in the TJ Unlimiteds was they added 10 inches to the wheelbase and 12 inches overall, which means that's 2 inches longer overhang back there and about a few inches more legroom space in the back for the passengers. When I bought Ruby in 2010, I was specifically looking for an LJ like this, not necessarily the Rubicon. I just happened to come across a deal on an actual Rubicon edition that well, it was a bit below market at the time, which actually turned out to be the bottom of the market for these, and in spite of actual seriously going on a lot of high quality adventures, it is actually appreciated in value, which is I'm not sure how to feel about that. This seems kind of wrong in some level. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Jeep Rubicon package, it came out in 2004 as a special rock crawling package on the TJs, and has carried forth since with some minor changes and dilutions with the various generations and time frames. But when the Rubicon first came out, what it specifically meant was Dana 44 axles with 411 gears and a selectable air locker. Later versions went to the electronic locker, which I think is a better setup, but whatever. Now, this isn't the new Dana 44 that came out a year later in the JKs. It is the original classic Dana 44 with backwards compatibility to somewhere in the late 40s, early 50s. So, you know, I don't know what that's worth, but that's just what it is. Anyways, over the years, now this particular example has a 4-inch overstock TJ or 2-inch overstock Rubicon, because the Rubicons of this generation came with a 2-inch suspension lift to begin with. I went ahead and put Fox shocks on all the way around at one point because they're cool. I've had to reinforce some of the front suspension a little bit because of bashing on rocks and breaking them. See over there, I got a little bit of a, looks like a seal, leaky front seal. That happens. Anyways, another feature of all Rubicons is a quick disconnect front sway bar. With the TJs, that meant in the sway bar link there were some pins that had to be pulled and removed. Previous owner had actually put this Terraflex system on it, which with a twist of this knob, if you can see it, yeah, twist of the knob right here, I can engage or disengage the front sway bar, and that increases suspension travel tremendously and adds very much to the off-road ability. Now my example, I have 32,000 miles and I've only gone through 3 transmissions. Oh well. Anyways, right before the first transmission died, I went ahead and installed this trans cooler from a square body Suburban half-ton with a tow package. It is pretty large and it does a good job of keeping the transmission nice and cool. Now as you can see, I got the PIA off-road lights. Actually, previous owner installed them. They were installed before LED light bars were the go-to mod. I haven't really messed with it. You also notice I do not have a winch, which I have been called out on numerous times by numerous different people, for which my reply is, well, I've only ever needed a winch once, and someone else was able to snatch me out. So, whatever. Now, another feature of the Rubicon, this is all Rubicons as far as I know, is a transfer case low range of 4-to-1, which is exceptionally low and actually arguably too low for certain types of off-roading such as sand and mud. But it does a great job in the rocks. That's the reason why it's a rock crawler package. As we continue the walk around, oh, and I've got 33-inch tires on steel rims as opposed to the aluminum rims, which were factory. The previous owners who put the lift kit on it, you got aftermarket adjustable control arms, so it can adjust pinion angles, and it's all set up really nice. On the back here is my spare tire carrier, gas can carrier, and bumper arrangement. This is an homologation of, or not a homologation, this is a combination of a bunch of other stuff put together. The bumper is a worn bumper that came with it, that originally was not set up for towing. It had a receiver in it, but it was, you know, it's not rated for towing. So I reinforced it with this outside piece here that you commonly see on most receivers. I added the RV style 7-pin trailer plug, and then these D-rings for the safety chains. Now the actual tire carrier itself and jack carrier and everything else, I forget what company I bought this from, to be honest with you, but I got it because I liked it. Was a swing mount. Originally I had a unit here on these rusty spots that, you know, I'm going to need to fix sooner than later, and it was flexing the heck out of the body, and I did not like that. So I went out and bought the spare tire carrier, and it uses a standard trailer spindle, and then I bought a trailer spindle and cut and welded it in, added the stops. I was able to set the depth where I needed it, and then I had to heavily reinforce under here on the frame in order to strengthen it up. It works really good. Not perfect, but it works really good. It does everything I need it to do. The previous owners had these rock sliders, they're Curry units. The Rubicon actually had a set, but they were relatively light. So now under the hood it is stock, because I do live in California, and California has a pretty strict emission. This is the last year of the Jeep 4-liter, legendarily indestructible inline 6. That basic design actually dates back to 1967 in AMC. In fact, this AMC Rambler at the front of my yard has the It's basically the same engine, just you know, 50 years older. It's a it's got the 232 inline 6 points distributor and a carburetor, but the basic architecture is very similar. Now, in the intervening 50 years, they changed deck height and did a bunch of other stuff to accommodate things as they go along, and have new head, of course, obviously much newer head designs. I've had multiple generations of head designs for emissions and performance reasons, but the last year and nearly the first year running effectively the same engine. 4-liter is getting a little blow by, and it's starting to leak a little bit, but 136,000 miles, it's going to happen. That said, it runs good, and though I wish I had a little more power for the freeway, it works exceptionally well off-road. Because of how absolutely wonderful this Jeep is, and the fact that it's one of the last vehicles sold in North America that you can get without driver's aids, it's something that I plan on, and you know, it's very mechanical in the way everything works. It doesn't rely on any software in order to enable you to go over obstacles. You just got to make sure that the airlines and the lockers are in good working shape, and the front sway bar is disconnected, and you can pretty much crawl over anything. It's amazing in that regards. I've had a couple Jeeps, and this one is by far the most awe-inspiring. And the fact that it's also pretty stable on the road, on the freeway, at freeway speeds, adds to the fact that it is an incredible vehicle to own and drive, and there's a reason why the several off-road and magazine editors have declared it the ultimate factory Jeep. So the plan is to keep this thing forever and keep rebuilding it. Now, like I said, I'm on my third transmission. Stupid 42 RLE. It was the automatic, though much better off-roading. It was probably a mistake. I wish I had the manual instead. Okay, when you are prepping for a long road trip, it's real important that you look over all the fluids, especially the cooling system, because the number one reason why cars end up on the side of the road after running out of gas is something's wrong with the cooling system. So that means check all the hoses, check the level, inspect the belt, and then you want to look over all the other hoses as well, not just the cooling hoses. Look at your vacuum lines, look at oil lines, look at transmission lines, and just make sure that nothing's cracked, nothing's gummy, nothing's coming apart that might explode on you while you're in some inhospitable region of the country 100 miles from the closest auto parts house. So a very thorough looking over of everything under the engine, in the engine compartment, and possibly under the vehicle. The other thing you want to do is check your tire pressure. Make sure all your tires are properly inflated according to the manufacturer's recommendations. And of course, you want to go ahead and check your transmission fluid level. All the vehicles I have require having it apart starting out. But consult your owner's manual to find out the proper process. Make sure it's the right level. One of the challenges with any domestic vehicle built in the last 35 years, especially if it's got a legacy engine that predates the attempt to standardize on metrics, is inevitably it has a mixture of, well, when I say domestic, I mean domestic U.S. production vehicles, from your traditional big 3 or 4 U.S. manufacturers. So as a result, inevitably have to get out all my a handful of metric and a handful of imperial or SAE traditional inches tools to be able to do, you know, the work that needs to be done. So I'm armed with, I think, everything plus a bunch that I need to do an oil change. Now a nice thing about my Rubicon is with the 33-inch tires and a 4-inch lift, it is high enough for me to crawl under without putting on jack stands. Also, while here, safety supervisor insists on crawling out periodically and throwing the ball. So many of you have already changed your oil before. This is probably the first thing most people do when they're learning how to work on cars and stuff. And it's really straightforward, really simple. It's no big deal. But yeah, you know, it's good to check your oil. And if you're getting close to your change interval, even if you're a little early, go ahead and do it. Better to be a little early than way too late. Now, while oil is draining out, now it's currently cold, even though I just started up, moved around a little bit, checked the transmission fluid. Oil is cold. So instead, while the oil is draining out, we'll go ahead and lube up the chassis. Hopefully before you Now, on a lot of these straight sixes from the mid-century, the oil filter is on the side of the block coming out sideways here. And guarantee a mess when taking off. You want to make sure that after you take it off, the O-ring comes with it. Now you can see my oil actually isn't that bad, but it's about 3,000 miles and it's time. When you're going on a road trip, you want to be ahead on your maintenance, not behind. You don't want to, hit that magic number. Now, can you go over? Sure, but you really run the risk that of it wearing out. Not while you're on your trip, mind you, but it means that you run the risk of prematurely wearing it out, like at 150,000 miles when it could have gone 500,000 miles. So stay on top of this maintenance, and your car will last a lot longer. Now, like a lot of other YouTubers, I really prefer the Wix brand filters. Engine Masters actually did a shootout tearing apart different filters, and the Wix brand has demonstrated that just their basic Wix brand is better than most other name brand premium filters. Now, whenever I do change the filter like this, I always make a point to fill it up halfway. And what I mean by that, see if you can see, take a quart of the oil you're going to use, go ahead, and if you fill it up so that there's some in it. Now, because this sits on the side, completely filling it up until it is full, you're just going to dump a bunch on the ground, or in your can. But if you have some in it, that means the engine, when you first start it after changing the oil, it's not going to be starved for oil as long. So it only takes a little bit. Now, the other thing you want to do is dab your finger in the oil you just put on and go ahead and wet the seal. And now the awkward. When you bring it up till it seats, I like, since some have spilled out on it, I like to wipe it off a little bit. And then you want to turn it about 3/4 of a turn past. Hopefully you should be able to do it by hand. But if you have to get a tool on it, remember you only want to go about 3/4 to 1 full turn past where it seats. So you go more than that, you're just going to mess up the seal and it'll leak. Alright, now time to refill the oil. Now I like to take, this motor roughly takes, it's got a 5-quart oil pan, which means by the time you fill the filter and get oil everywhere else, it's closer to 6 quarts. So I always I like to buy the big jug and the little jug, one of each, because the big jug is 5 quarts and 1 quart of this. And the nice thing about doing it this way is you can get, this is really easy to get in the hole. With minimal spillage. So, and once that is empty, you can cut the bottom off. Thusly, and you have a funnel. So that nice high flow jug, you can come in and you got a good funnel, and you can sit there and pour oil in relatively quickly. And you get left with a handy dandy jug to put the used oil in to take it back to the parts store to recycle it. And what I just did there was I went ahead and started it and let it run. Let the oil pressure build up so I know that my oil filter is full and flowing. It's not eliminating it. And if we want, we can check the level. Now, and it's exactly where it needs to be, right there, if you can see it. And where I live in Southern California, we don't get a lot of rain, but so I don't change my windshield wipers nearly often enough, and so when it does rain, it's kind of obnoxious. In fact, my C10 doesn't even have windshield wipers on it at all. Just never got around to putting some on. Don't judge me. So, got some new windshield wipers to put on. Some uber expensive Rain-X ones. And bam, there you go. Well, there you go. I hope you appreciate Rubi as much as I do. One of the best factory produced Jeeps off-road for off-roading ever made. I definitely love this thing. If I ever have to, when the engine dies, and it isn't if, it's you go long enough, even if it's 500,000 miles. Though to be honest with you, I think next time the transmission dies in another 60,000 miles, I think I might go ahead and round up a like a 06 or 07 4.8 or 5.3 liter LS and with the 4L60E and swap them in. It's overall ownership, like I said, I've had being the safety supervisor and our friends have gone on some immense adventures, legendary adventures in Rubi. Packed a week's worth of gear in the back and just gone out and completely wandered all over the nether regions of the desert and mountains of California, Arizona, Nevada, and have just loved the hell out of this vehicle. And I also hope that you guys got something, learned something about things you should take a look at before you go on your next long drive. And though we are professionals, we are not at this. If there's anything we missed or anything you think people should look at, or you want to comment on Ruby, yes, I know she needs a bath. Next rainstorm, she'll be good. Leave a comment down below, and remember, like, please subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps the channel out. Share with your friends. Hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our future videos, and have a wonderful day.